Hey guys, John here, and welcome to a new Sunday special. This is going to be a video in a new playlist called Advice, and kind of a spot where we can talk about making better patches and becoming a better sound designer. And there's the 5 different things that I think are going to be effective, and it's going to help you out if you follow these things kind of rigidly. So one of the first things I like to tell people, because I've gotten this question before, how do I make a better patch? How do I get better just at synthesis in general? And one thing that's really worked for me is pick a synth that you really like, for example, and stick with that one for a month's time. Now, for the entire month, what you have to do is every single day make 3 different patches. Now, these 3 different patches don't necessarily have to be perfect patches. It's more so to get you in the rhythm, the flow of actually using the synth and kind of learning how to save the patches, learning how to add different things to it. So 3 different patches a day. That might sound like a lot, but check this out. This is where it's going to be a little bit easier. Set yourself 1 hour's time. No interruptions, just you and that synth. For 20 minutes, you have 20 minutes to make a patch. At the end of that 20 minutes, you're done. Save it and then move on to the next one. Because we can get lost in, oh, what if this sounds like this and that sounds like this? And that's cool, but that's not the point of the exercise. You have 20 minutes to make a patch, and once that's done, set a timer and then save it and move on to the next patch. And then do another 20 minutes and then do another 20 minutes. So 20, 40, 60, that's going to bring you up to that 1 hour. And if you do that every single day for 1 month, at the end of that month, you're going to know that synthesizer much, much better, and sound design in general within that synth. It's going to be much more comfortable to you. So with that being said, definitely try to do that experiment, and that whole experience is going to be awesome to you. You're going to learn so much more stuff, and then at the end of that month, what's really cool is go through your folder and definitely make a separate folder for that so you don't clutter up a lot of the stuff, and then listen to the stuff that you did the first couple days versus the last couple days of the month. You're going to be blown away at how much better you have gotten. So it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes dedication to that one synth. Now, that doesn't mean you can play around with other synths, but for that hour, whatever synth you pick, you're going to have to stick with that for the entire month. So really pick one that you like working with and that you like the sound of. So that's the first thing I kind of wanted to bring out there. Now, the second one is going to be using presets, but not in the way that you think, not using presets for a song, using presets to learn, for example. So if we load up Pigments here, and then we kind of just kind of go through some of these different presets. Let's go for Demon Pulse. It's kind of a random one here. Let's listen to see what that sounds like. Okay, and maybe pick a preset that you really like the sound of because it gives you a little bit more motivation. And with that being said, you're going to have to learn how to deconstruct, see what these people are doing in this patch to make it sound the way it does. Now, the first thing that we generally like to do is let's turn off the effects because that can be a little misleading. Okay, so it sounds like that. Okay, got it. Now we see that we're using 2 filters, and we're using the utility engine, we're using the analog 2 engine, and we're using the wavetable. So you can go each one, turn off the utility, turn off the analog engine, and just look at the first one. Okay, this is pretty basic here. We can see that this engine here is getting sent to filter 1. Okay, what's filter 1 doing? We're on the comb section here. Now, is there any modulation happening? It looks like there is, and it's going to be in the frequency. Now, what's modulating that? LFO3 at 0.11. So let's take a look at LFO3. So that's going to be a really slow at 0.136 hertz, and it's going to be a sine wave, and that's going to be moving this filter back and forth. So we can go into this LFO3, and we can see that this filter 1 frequency is modulating here. And now we can disable this temporarily and just kind of look at it like, okay, we're using the comb and so on and so forth. Turn this back on. Okay, it's moving now. I understand that. And then we have this filter 2. And we're seeing that over here in the sum, filter 1's also getting sent to filter number 2. Got it. Okay. What's filter number 2 doing? It's a multi-mode. We have this resonance at 0.340, so on and so forth. I think you get the point. It's kind of just deconstructing things in a methodical manner. So taking off the effects, taking off different aspects of that synth, whatever one you're using, and kind of seeing what's happening. And that's going to be a good way to learn. Now, this is where the learning phase really comes in. Once you get that, open up a different instance of that and try to recreate that slowly. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly one-to-one, but it should help you realize, oh, okay, they're doing this and this and this. And the best part of doing this type of preset learning exercise is that you're going to come across ideas that you have never thought about before that some great sound designers put in these patches. So for example, there's one I came across, and there's a sequence going, and at the very end of that sequence, the voices category here was modulated to do a certain chord. So at the very last note, it would modulate open and it would play a chord and then go back to close. So the sequence would play its regular sequence and it would play a cool chord at the end. And then at the end of that chord, a lot of reverb would open. And it's a very interesting concept that maybe we wouldn't have thought about if we hadn't seen that before, because a lot of our knowledge is accumulated knowledge. So with that being said, there's so many presets out there that do so many cool things, but the most important takeaway is not just using them and slapping a preset on your song and saying that's cool, but it is to learn from them. That's where I think presets are most valuable for, is to learn from them, and then we can create really, really good patches after that. So with that being said, moving on to the third thing, and these are all very important things, so we have a couple more to go over. The third thing is selecting effective synths to cover your different basses. So with that being said, that's why I have a couple here. So one of my favorites, as you know, is Pigments. It can do so many things, right? So let's go to our new preset here. We have an analog engine, a wavetable, a sample, and a harmonic. So it covers a lot of different basses, not every single one, but it has a good amount. Now that's one of my first choices here. The next one I have is going to be Diva. If I want to do any type of analog emulation or really good sound, that's kind of where I'd go to kind of simulate that stuff. So that's one of the other synths in my toolbox here. And then the third is going to be our trusty Citrus if we want to do different types of FM stuff. So in this situation, we have Pigments that covers a lot of ground. We have Diva that covers a lot of analog and great sound. And then we have Citrus to cover FM stuff. Because as you know, there's so many synths out there. There's the Arturia collection. There's, oh my God, you can just ramble off. Serum, Hive, Silent 1, Dune 3, Anna 2. You can keep going on over and over and over, and they're great synths, and I'm not to say that, but you can get lost in chasing all these different synthesizers. Say, oh, but maybe my patches might sound better in this one, or maybe they might sound better in that one. And that's possible. It definitely is, but you really want to make sure to pick 3 really good synths that cover certain grounds. So with that being said, it's better to master maybe 1, 2, or 3 synths than to be kind of okay at like 50 of them. You know what I'm saying? You really want to learn the sound design. A good quote to remember is to don't learn synths, but learn synthesis. And now once you know that, then every other synth, it might take a minute to get the user interface down to kind of understand what you're doing with it. And then from there, you can kind of really broaden your horizons. So the takeaway, use only a couple synths as your main workhorses that cover different grounds. You know, if you want something kind of wavetable-y, maybe Serum's more your speed and that's kind of your workflow. Definitely incorporate that. If you want some type of FM, you know, maybe FM8's your thing, or maybe Citrus is your thing, or whatever it is you like, whatever bases that you want covered, find a good synth that covers that well, and then master those ones. So that's kind of a good way to get started in your toolbox, because you might want to have a couple good ones than 1,000 mediocre ones. So with that being said, number 4 is going to be read the manuals. Now I know that might be kind of boring to you, but if you want to get better at the synth that you're using, if you like that synth, reading the manuals should be actually kind of fun. A lot of the manuals, they have some interesting jokes in there, and there's a lot of stuff you wouldn't necessarily learn from different videos or tutorials that are kind of tucked away in the manual. So something like that to keep in mind. It's very important to read that. It might be nice, you know, use your synth for the day, and then once you're going to bed at night, to kind of wind down and read a user manual. Obviously, like I said, it might sound boring, but the way our brains process stuff is right before we go to sleep, if we're reading some stuff, our brains have time to kind of soak that in, soak the experience that we did if you're doing the 3 patches a day, and then the manual on top of that. So we're using a practical experience, and we're also using kind of a theoretical reading the material stuff. And if you do that over a month's time, you're really, really going to get good at what you're trying to do. And the last one here is going to be what we're listening on. So if we're doing synthesis, that covers a lot of ground, right? From 20 hertz all the way to 20K, there might be some subtleties in the very top end or the low end. And if we don't have headphones or speakers that can really reproduce that, we're kind of painting ourselves into a corner. If we have headphones that kind of stop or tail off at 15K, we might have no idea what's happening above that. Or if we have headphones that don't reproduce something that's below 60, for example, from 20 to 40, that might be some interesting stuff there. So we might be doing some atmospheric stuff, some textures or something like that. So that's an important spot, because we need to learn to hear what we're actually doing, whether that's really good speakers or really good headphones. Now, we're always on a budget, that's definitely true, but if you do want to get the good patches, the good sound, you're going to need to be able to hear what you're actually doing. It's like if you're driving a car and you want to see the road, but if you have all this stuff on your windshield and you can't really see, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice at the end of the day. So make sure to get some good headphones. And speaking on the speaker headphones thing, there's definitely a spot where they become good and where they become bad. But the most important thing to take away is make sure you get something kind of professional that covers a lot of the range. And then from there, it's a very personal choice. Once you pass that threshold of quality headphones, then it's kind of more so like, I like how these sound, I like how these sound. But the main concept to drive home is that you like them and that you know them. That's the most important part. As long as they cover the frequency range at a decent spot and they're not too hyped or anything like that, you have to get to know them. You have to be one with another. So that means that when you A/B or look at different type of synths or sounds, you know it's changing because you're so familiar with what you're listening to. So I thought I'd mention that. In case anybody's curious, one of my favorite headphones that I have never let go of since I got them, and I probably won't really change now, is from Adam Audio, the SP5s. A little pricey, unfortunately, but I think the sound is great, not to mention you really don't get hearing fatigue with these. It's really great. And for the speakers, the Adam A7Xs, they make excellent stuff. So definitely pricey. I would suggest to maybe save if you're going that direction, because if you buy cheap headphones or cheap speakers, you're going to buy them twice because they will break at some point in time and the quality is just not as good. So remember, buy cheap, buy twice. That's going to be the kind of thing. At the end, you're going to be paying the same amount. If you bought headphones that are like $200 and they're okay for a while and then they start breaking or you don't really like the sound, then you have to buy them again. So now you're $400 in the hole, versus if you would have saved up your money, you can get something of really, really good quality. So based on that, hopefully you enjoyed the video. These are kind of the 5 things that are really going to help you get better at your craft and going to help you excel. There's a lot of different things. Don't fall into the different rabbit holes of, I'm going to sound better on this synth, because you're really doing yourself a disservice. The novelty will wear off on every synth that you use, so make sure to pick something that you like. So thank you for watching. If there's any questions or anything like that, please let me know in the video description below, and we will talk about those in the next advice playlist whenever that happens. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.